So, Miss Kimmay, hooray! I'm happy you're here because you are like just a little gem in my life. I'm so happy I met you. I'm just so happy we've been connected.
Same.
As business owners, entrepreneurs, all things.
As women.
Yes, Brad. Yeah, I look up to you. You're so inspiring.
Same, babe.
So I'm pumped to like just pick your brain and now have you with the others.
Let's chat.
You are the So today, and what I want the listeners listening in, watching, you are just a force. I always say you're a force because you know your work, you know your value. You are a professional. You've been doing this. You've got through the hard parts. You're open about all the bad parts. You talk about the spells of going down and lows. What I want to talk about or really dive in today is just kind of your journey as a professional into the world of content creation, how you've been able to monetize it. Yeah, I'll put some prompts, but I have a feeling this conversation is going to flow. But let's start at the beginning, like your profession, who you are, about you. Yeah. And then I'll just kind of guide you as we go.
Hooray. Hi, everyone. So my name's Kimmay, otherwise known as Hooray Kimmay. And I started as a bra fitter in 2005. That was just a job I needed to get through college. I always tell people when I started this job too, I was making $7 an hour selling shoes and broke, just really broke in New York City. And this was a long time ago, but still $7 was still $7. Yeah. And I just needed money. And a friend of mine said, hey, there's this bra shop opening up. Are you into bras? I was like, nope, but how much do they pay? She said $10 an hour. I said, I'm going to be rich. Let's go. And that was literally how I got into bra fitting. And this was like a fitting shop in New York City. And I saw every single kind of body that you could imagine in that fitting room. And it's a very vulnerable space. When people take off their clothes in front of you, they will tell you things. And one of the things I noticed in every single time I fit somebody, no matter what they looked like, no matter who they were, no matter how old they were, is they had something negative to say in the mirror. Every single one.
I believe it.
And I realized, oh my gosh, I was doing the same thing. I was 20 years old. I was going to school for musical theater. Shout out to my musical theater peeps. And yeah, you too. Okay, por supuesto, claro que sí. And I just didn't have a good relationship with my body. And it was because I was seeing examples of perfectly airbrushed images and bodies in magazines. This is a long time ago, y'all. This was 2005.
Yeah.
So this was before Instagram and any kind of body positive movements and no filters, which now we're kind of swinging the other way too on Instagram. So I'll get into that soon, like how I approach, my content, which is no airbrushing, no filters at all.
Yeah.
That said, it really changed my life because I saw what real human bodies looked like. So I sort of, I could definitely change someone's life with a bra, 100%. But while we're in there, we might as well talk about who we're seeing in the mirror, how you're supporting and adorning the sacred area of your body right over your heart. If there's any shame, confusion, or discomfort in this part of the body right over the heart, which there's so much when you're wearing a bra that doesn't fit, it's completely closed off. So my goal is to help people have shoulders back, heart out, make heart-led decisions in the world. And it just kind of snowballed from there. So I did go into this as a profession. I ended up working in some other areas that were not bras, and I hated it. It was just not for me. It was like not my sharpest tool. Mm-hmm. So I went back, I became the marketing manager of that retail store, then the marketing director. And really that's where I got into content creation and content marketing. I was making their blogs, I was doing their social media. This was like 2011. So like social media. Yeah. And then in 2014, I started my own media and marketing company. And I was doing things on the back end, behind the scenes for brands. And there's a whole, can we swear on this?
I think so.
Wait, because
I'm going for it.
There was a whole shit show of how that even happened. And if you want to know about some lows, I could tell you some real lows.
Yeah.
That said, I did triumph and was doing really well doing things behind the scenes. And if I'm being completely honest, I am not a behind the scenes girl. I don't know if you know this about me. So I pitched my first ever influencer package. And
what was that in 20?
This was 20,
just in
13, 14, okay. Probably 2014, maybe 15. Gosh, I have to go look.
No, it's almost just to show the journey of it all. Because people think you wake up and become this, and it's not that.
And
you're in a profession.
I will say I was using my connections.
Of course.
And I pitched a really big company and just literally called them up. I put together a little pitch deck that I was like, not even in Canva or anything at the time, right? It was like PowerPoint.
Yeah.
And just said, would you pay me to wear your swimsuits and then put it on my blog and tell people about how to feel comfortable in their body? Would this be something you'd be willing to do? And they were like, yes. And they paid me $1,500.
Stop.
I was like, what?
Oh, wait.
Oh my God. No, listen, not everything has been that easy since then. And I did a lot of content for them and just experimented. I was like, this is a paid experiment. Brought a friend of mine down to Florida She stayed with her family. I stayed with my family. I like borrowed my brother's horse. You're like, do a shoe.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, like, took us on his boat. It was crazy. You figured it out. I figured it out. So anyways, that's how I ended up here today.
But as a professional,
yes,
that started in this space, then there was a moment for you, because then you're like, wait a second, that influencer deal kind of probably expanded your mind to say, wait, is there more of that?
Yeah.
Something I could do more of? I have, the experience, the expertise, content. I like it. Be forward facing. Love it.
Yeah.
How do I dig deeper in this space? Because now that's kind of like a big part of your income, right? Or a big part of how you have built your business or your empire, so to speak, is on these partnerships, right? So can you talk us like maybe a little bit about like, what do those partnerships currently look like right now?
Yeah.
Are you bra fitting still? Is that even, or now are we just like in this full time? How has this opened the world for you or changed your life, arguably?
I think one of the best things that I could say to any influencer, by the way, is to like really dig deep into something that you're really good at and do it well. Like do it really well. And then you can use your influence as an expert in that thing to go and do it. That's not for everybody, but that worked for me. And a lot of people ask me, how'd you get on TV so many times, or how did you do this and that? And I was like, well, I have 18 years of experience being an expert in this thing. And I just said yes to everything. So I was saying yes to anybody that wanted me on a podcast. Hey, hi girls. Anybody who wanted me to like do something for their blog or like interview me for like local television. I was like, yes, absolutely. My biggest motto is be nice and show up. And by be nice, I mean be nice to yourself and others. Like be a good person. Like don't be a jerk. But then also show up, say yes to things. And when you do it 100%. Don't be like, well, this is just for like someone in like their 5 blog readers. No, just do it. Yeah. So I just started doing lots of content and doing lots of partnerships with people organically and just showing up in my space. Yeah. Then when I show up to that expo, that lingerie expo, people know who I am. Yes. I went and I made great relationships with them. It was not an overnight thing. Even though that first opportunity sounded like it was, I had been building that relationship with that brand for a long time. Yeah. So anyway, so now. But let's focus. But I just even want anyone listening, relationship building. How to write it down. That is the key to successful partnership. And some are cold pitches. I'm sure you're doing some of that. Some. But at the end, it's like, hey, we've worked together before. Let me go back. Let me show you a proposal. Are you wanting to come in and jump in? Yeah. On, I would say, and I'd have to actually look at the numbers on this, but I would say the vast majority of my work right now, I would even say 90% are warm leads and relationships. I don't really cold pitch right now. And that's maybe a privilege that I have as well, because I'm meeting people constantly and they want to meet me, or I have I have a lot of inbound conversations. So I'm getting cold pitch. And being able to repivot those. Correct. So in terms of your brand partnerships, who are some brands that you have been able to partner with? And I just want to humble brag on you, because I know you've been featured on tons of different TV shows and outlets, and you brought it like Good Morning America. Like I'm like, that's actually wait, I haven't done Good Morning America. Oh no, on TV. Today's show. Sorry, my 5th time is coming up. Enjoy. That's insane. Yeah, like that's like, oh my gosh, on the vision board. Yeah, the vibe. Like you get pulled in. Yeah, because of obviously how all the experience and things that you have, but that also I'm sure helps with your credibility. Brand partners. Makes you feel safe. All of these like little hidden assets help you raise your rates potentially. Yep. Hey, it's not just coming with me to this package, but look at all the credentials I've also built in the last 10 years to support I'm safe. Like I always think like if CNN vetted me, they didn't just bring me on. Yeah. It gives that signal to other outlets that, hey, she's vetted. Like, I will say though, there's 2 sides to that, because please don't ever think as soon as you're on television that people are just going to come knock on your door and want to pay thousands of dollars. Doesn't happen. It doesn't. You still have to negotiate. You still have to like show them your worth. It will bring people to the door, but you still have to like close the deal. Yeah, 100%. And we don't close deal. We close them on calls. I know me and you are the queen of getting on calls. And we want to role play a little or like have fun with that. But before we even do that, because I know you're all about the call energy. So am I. Yeah. Like if I could have a t-shirt that's like, get on the freaking call. Yeah. Show them your shine. Yeah. I'll like get on it. But in terms of your brand partnerships and being able to like put these proposals together because of your packages, who are some brands that you've worked with? Oh, wait, so I should actually name the ones I work with? Oh my gosh, your partner. How much time do we have? There's so many brands. No, there's a few clients that, you love and respect and are happy to kind of have worked with in the past. So I want to continue working. So I'll say in the bra world, some of my favorite clients that I've worked with are like really great names that you're going to see a lot of places. So like Chantel, Notori, Aerie, Warner's, who had like the #1 bra in America when I was working with them, right? Like really big brands. But then also I really have loved partnering with some of the smaller brands. Let's talk about it. Okay. Why? So here's the deal. The big brands are great. They typically have a budget. They have a marketing person. They like come in with a plan, right? Sometimes, not always, to be honest. And sometimes they're willing to like fly you out to like actually go and create the content at their production studio. Oh my God, amazing. That said, sometimes it comes with a little bit more red tape, expectations. It's a little drier because they're just like, it's business. Whereas some of these smaller brands, they look up to you if you're an influencer in their industry. And I've had smaller brands actually tell me like literally, they're like, you're on my vision board to work with this year. Or they're like, we've just been like waiting to get the budget to work with you. We love your empowering message. We love that you don't airbrush. Like the values are such, I'm getting goosebumps here, like such a crossover when it's a smaller brand and it's a smaller person. And so, I mean, it's not always true. And sometimes also their expectations of like what they're going to get from this, they don't have the experience to know like,
it's not a magic wand.
Right, exactly.
Listen, it's like
there's a little bit more education in the call when you're talking in expectation setting. And it's so amazing to create something really great for someone and see it go well. Like I was literally texting with a client this morning and one of our recent photos on Instagram, not even like a video, which all the videos are hot right now, a photo, we got so much engagement on it. It's one of our highest reaching. And I was like, listen, I just sent it over to her actually at 2 a.m. So I was coming home from La Placita. But I sent it over to her. I said, hey, this is really great. How exciting. We're getting such great engagement. Now, we're going to send that to her in a report later, but it's just fun in the moment to be like, look at this. She came back and she was like, oh my God, I'm so happy right now. That one thing helps me know that like this person not only is invested, but is also grateful. It's one thing for them to be like, great, it's supposed to do well. We paid you.
Yeah.
And another for them, not that those other brands did that, but it's just so good to have that one-on-one.
And I think for brands, because believe it or not, I have a lot of people on the brand side that listen into what we talk about.
Hey.
Yeah, and having y'all understand just like those moments of gratitude, like make the work we do.
Yeah.
So much more.
And for certain creators like myself, I put a lot of heart into the work that I do.
Yeah.
So it is a business transaction. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a Capricorn. I'm going to get stuff done.
Yes.
And it matters to me.
Yeah.
When someone is grateful in that relationship. There's always 3 things that have to happen when I work with a brand partner. And one is that I have to stand behind the product, right? Like I cannot share something and just like about. 2, your brand and my brand have to have some kind of alignment in values, right? There has to be a pretty heavy crossover. And then 3, I have to be able to get along with the person that I'm working with. That's not always possible. And yet I'm at a place now where I say no to things because I'm like, I don't want to actually work with this person. Like if we're going to be talking about contracts, or you're going to be approving my work, or you're going to be like X, Y, and Z, whatever on this project, if we're not going to get along, like why would I say yes to this? There's so many other people I can work with. And that said, when you work with someone that you actually get along with, you don't have to be best friends. You have to be able to have that alignment as a human being. The project always goes better. It just does.
There's something that's
better for them, better for me. It's better for everybody.
Wow. It's like genetically, even when you're shooting it, you feel so valued and online that it's like in your inner little soul.
Yes.
I think puts in more work, is more shining, more radiant, and it comes across on screen. When you feel undervalued, when you feel upset about the partnership, I swear there's a vibe that goes into content. So tell us about you walking away, saying no. Well, how does that even, maybe an experience that you've had in the past, like walking away from money is hard. I hear it all the time, especially when you need it. You're, maybe not in a position where you can say no. So you're like, God, I have to take this deal or whatever.
So I want to remind people of when you walked away. Like if you feel like you're in the creator journey and you're having a hard time walking away from money, there's 2 things I want you to do. One is to have an abundance mindset, which means it's this or something better. So like you can say no to something because more is coming. That's true. The second thing is remind yourself when you've ever walked away from something in your life that just didn't feel right and you knew it, even if it seemed on paper like a good deal. It could be a man, right? It could have been a job. It could have been anything. So I did that. I walked away from working some really fancy jobs for La Perla, for Prada, and I just knew it wasn't right. And I like almost threw up about it. I was like, I can't believe I just did that. I just said no to a really fancy, well-paying job, but I knew it wasn't right. So get in the practice of doing things like that are in alignment with you, and that means saying no to stuff that's not. That's a really big deal. Okay, so then right from the beginning then, in this journey, I was broke. I had no money. By the way, to talk about the hard stuff, right when I quit my job at the bra shop as the marketing director, which happened very serendipitously, by the way, because
everything does.
Right?
Got incident. Nothing's a coincidence.
Totally.
Yep.
I quit my job, and a week later, my husband lost his job. And then 2 weeks later, I lost my only client. So I was in a position of like no money. And I thought, okay, I can go work for somebody else. I'm very capable, and or I have the opportunity right now to just like go for it. And I was 29. I was in my Saturn return. If anyone's a woo and listening, yes, she gets it. She gets it. And so it was like a really pivotal time in my life. And so I just want to like set the scene of like, I needed this money. Okay. And I don't know how I ended up connecting with this one brand whom I won't say, but they're in New York City. They have a really big bunch of floors. They make a lot of like really cheap boxed lingerie, which nothing wrong with that, just didn't really align with me. And this man brought me into his office, which was plastered with all of their campaigns of like very pornographic looking images and very like fake airbrushed bodies, fake augmented breasts, which again, nothing wrong with that, but just the whole picture together was like fake, 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 fake. Nothing was authentic or real about this brand. And it was basically just objectification of women. And I immediately felt uncomfortable, but he was really trying to sell me on this alternative brand that they had that was really inclusive. And I knew right away this was a gimmick and that they were literally just creating this line so that they could cash in on the inclusivity and body positivity stuff that was just starting to swell. And I smelled it a mile away. And he like really wined and dined. He like took me out to lunch. He took me on a tour. He introduced me to this big fancy man who owned everything. And I really thought to myself, like, who am I to say no to this for a second? And then he gave me some products. Like, look, let's just try it out. He was like bragging to me about how he like did this photo shoot. And I thought, you know what?
I'm feeling all sorts of it.
Yeah, it was gross. It was disgusting. And I think right now saying this story, y'all listening are probably like, it's an obvious no. When you're in the room with someone and you'll need the money, and I did not have a lot of brand partnerships or examples, and they were well known. I thought to myself, like, this is a pivotal moment of where I'm going to go in direction with this work. And I looked at him and I said, you know, thank you so much for this opportunity and for showing me everything. I really appreciate it. And I truly did. And it's not a good fit for me. And I wouldn't feel right. I wouldn't be able to create the right content for you in order for this to be a successful journey for either of us.
Yeah, it's like it's not even just for you. You've also framed it as it's for you.
And what's that mean where like people do the thing and then they're shaking, like the water's shaking? Like I sounded probably pretty confident, but inside I was like, what am I doing? And he was like handsome, and I just felt like
you could have.
I could have just buckled, and I didn't. And I'm really proud of myself. So just like setting the tone for yourself from the beginning. Yeah,
those little.
And then the other times I've walked away from stuff is just when like we actually had this conversation the other day where somebody offered something. I really want to support this brand. I really wanted to work with them actually. And what they offered, I was like, by the time I just even recreate the agreement, send the invoice, or I pay my team to just like get the client task set up in Asana, what you paid me is paid to them.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't do it. So I politely said, again, like, I just don't think it's going to be possible for me and my team to get this work done for you and to make it valuable. And anything that I feel like would be worth your or my time, let's talk again when you have a better budget or we feel like it's a better fit.
Yeah. And there you go.
Mine.
And I think those conversations are so important because, like you said, in that abundance mindset, you're just bringing in new stuff.
Right.
So two things I want to talk about that I think are so important, because obviously saying no is something I think that more creators need to do.
Yeah.
But something I want to talk about is that call. You were the queen of getting on the call. And I think this is obviously where you shine. I love doing it too. To me, I say it's really hard to close a $10,000 deal on email. It just is.
Yeah.
It's hard to sell on email.
Yeah.
I think once you get on those discovery calls and kind of learn about the brand and smile, feel warm, and then they like you, and then they're like, oh yeah, I kind of like this girl.
Yeah.
That's where I find that I've been the most successful. So can you kind of maybe walk us through that call? How do you take control? How you make clients feel safe, warm, what does that process look like? Because I think you're really, really good at it. And then I'd like to talk about the results that those calls have maybe brought to you.
I'll be honest, I think working in bra sales actually helped a lot, right? And being in musical theater, if I'm being really honest.
Yeah.
Because you have to think on your feet, but also there has to be that genuine connection. Like you can't really fudge it. And you'll be on a call sometimes and you're like, this ain't gonna work. Like, we're not vibing here, right? But in general, you do weirdly have to make them feel safe about this because they're the people who are investing money in you. And they have to really, they have to really think like, okay, she's got us. She understands us.
I feel safe with her. I feel
safe. That's a great word. You keep using that word. I really like that. Yeah.
Because I feel like, I know if I'm investing as a business owner, or even you, like, hey, I'm going to buy a course, I'm going to buy a product, I'm going to hire someone.
Yeah.
Is this investment going to pay off?
Yeah.
You know, so you want them to feel like, yes, it is.
Yeah.
You know?
So here's a couple things I do in calls. So one, this actually isn't official, but I do this in all of my calls with my team. We do what's called the human check-in. And so if we say, how are you? We really answer each other. So I don't really do that fully with like client calls. Like if I'm just meeting someone for the first time, hopefully we email together, but they probably are going to say, how are you? And I usually say, let's say I'm talking again, like, Nina, what a deep and powerful question. And then they're like, ha ha ha. And I'm like, no, seriously, like, I've been having kind of a rough couple days. Like the weather's been weird and just been like off. And I'm just so excited for the weekend and to have that sunshine. Like, how's it where you are? Like just some kind of human thing. And then, then I usually ask, where are you based right now? Where are you right now? And then they're like, oh, I'm in Chicago. Or I'm like, oh my gosh, I visited Chicago. It's beautiful.
Find a way to connect.
So excited to go back again. Or I'll be like, I've never been to Chicago. Like, do you like it there? And they'll be like, I don't know, I hate it. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Never. But I've learned in auditions, it's not actually great to always ask, how are you? Because they might be having a shit day.
Yeah.
And now you've just brought it up.
Yeah.
So I usually say, like, where are you located? How's it going? Like, what's on the agenda today? And just tell them something fun about me. Let them see my personality a little bit. And then I set a tone. And I set an intention. I'm all about intention setting.
I can't wait to talk about that at some point today.
But I say, oh, great. So my intention for this call is
yes,
laid out there. And I usually say, I really wanted to get to know you. It's really great if we're going to work together for us to get to know each other a little bit. I just want to hear more about the brand. I did a little bit of research for myself, and I just want to hear from you. And then I'd love to tell you a bit about me and like how I work with brands. If we think there's a way for us to partner together, we might be able to talk about that. Or really, I just want to like get on here and chat with you.
Yes.
Guess what? By the end of that call, I'm sharing my deck and my packages as examples of how I work with people. And they're like, great, package 3, please.
Yeah.
Doesn't always happen that way, but it definitely gets to a point where you're like, I can see where this is going and we're going to be working together.
Yeah. And me as the marketer is like that conversion is just so much higher by getting them on the call, being human, and then at the end being like, well, this is how I've done it. And
this is how I work with people.
Yeah.
And also I want to say really clearly too, you are the, I was like thinking about somebody who's like dating right now. She's like, I'm the prize.
Yeah.
You are the prize.
Yes.
So like,
yeah,
if you're not vibing and you're like, I don't like this situation, don't show them your deck. You can be like, you know what? Let's regroup and see if there's an opportunity for us to work together. I'd love to talk to you about it. But like, you don't have to pitch them on the call.
I have been on a call and found out before, like literally that they brought someone else on the call that they did not mention that they were on the right. And it was like literally a competitor.
Yep.
And within 2 minutes, I was like, I can't have this call due to conflict of interest.
Yep.
Because we were launching something that they like, something of that nature, can't really close.
Fair.
But it was like, we left the call.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I had no idea you were inviting someone.
Yeah.
Like disclosing that.
Yeah.
This was just with you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I can't move forward with this.
And I've never done that exactly, but
I was like, holy moly.
Yeah, that's some big girl pants right there.
Bye.
But like, I've also had those moments where it's like a bad first date right away. You're like, we're not going to date again. So I've been like, well, great. Like, thanks so much for taking this call. So excited. Like, we'll be in touch if there's a way we can support each other and have a great day. Like, bye, 5 minutes in. Bye.
But what I love is how you take the call, you really take this ownership of it and you shine and you're like, well, this is how I do this. And like very client service driven, not like desperate. I want to work with you. Please, like, it's more like this. Well, this is what I do.
Okay.
Value.
Another thing is, how can I serve you? Right. So like, again, in bra sales, I never felt like I was selling to them. I really, truly felt like I was serving that person. And they were like, oh my gosh, finally a bra that fits. My hope is that these clients will be like, oh, finally a person who understands our product and who's really genuine and blah, blah, like you're solving a problem for them. You are the prize.
Yeah.
So to really show up and serve them. So I ask a lot of questions with like, great, what are your goals for this year? And they may not know. They may not have put words to their goals, to be really honest. And they might be like, we just want to sell more. And I'm like, awesome. Like, what have you tried so far that hasn't worked? And then great, what have you tried? Have you worked with influencers before? Have you worked with content creators before? And you can kind of hear their pain points. They're like, well, we did this, but this didn't work. Or, they'll be like, well, my boss really wanted this to happen and it didn't. And I'm like, great. And you can either address it right away to be like, awesome, that's not something I can really do for you. Or you can say, great, good news. I actually offer exactly that. Or this is what we've done for clients in the past. So I feel like we could be a really good match here. And then always, always, always really get to know, again, their mission. Because if it aligns with yours, you can be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you don't airbrush your models because that's something that's really important to me. And if, big if, they throw that in there because it's like, if I decide to date you, right? So like if we work together, I think that that's going to really overlap and be like shine through in the content that we create together. And you can say that's important to me, and they can be like, me too. And I'm like, oh, is it? Oh my gosh, I'm so glad.
Yeah. But that if set, it's like almost like a word that we never even use because you never think of a creator having a choice.
I know. You're the prize. You're the prize. So
when you have words like if,
yeah,
you're like, well, if I decide.
Yes, exactly.
And it's like psychological in terms of the position of power.
Yeah, and you know, I want to be careful here too because I don't want to ever encourage people to manipulate or lie.
It's not though.
Right, I know, but it's like it can feel that way if you're not coming from a clear place within you. If you're not coming from a genuine place of I'm here to serve you and to really genuinely decide that this is a good partnership for us.
Yeah, we're not like writing it in the script like use the word if. No, it's more like
caution to everything.
Yes, of course, just not like copy. But we don't ever want anyone to copy paste. We want people to think critically.
Yeah.
But I think word choice shows confidence.
Yeah.
And that is a confident little strategy that may get you in it. So let's talk money because it's the weirdest thing. It's something that I think our generation never talked about. I still don't really even like fully like lean into it, but I do believe in transparency. And I do think that when you see what someone is able to do, like it expands you. We've talked about this. I'm like, if I can find someone who has done this and I get to meet them or hear from them, then I say, oh, then I can do it too.
Yeah.
Right. So these calls, the goal you just mentioned, you show them your decks or your proposals, these are my packages. This is how it works. How fruitful has that been? What does that look like in terms of final brand deal? But also, how do you put these, kind of packages together and things of that nature?
First of all, I love talking about money.
Oh, good.
I'm like in a group with some women in business where we meet every single Wednesday and we co-work, but it started out as a money group. And we've been doing it for like 5 years and we just talk about money very openly. And we actually, a great book resource is Overcoming Under-Earning. And she talks about how like you really have to be able to talk about it and not have it be taboo. I also, when we work in the creator space, there are going to be people who are getting, from a brand like, oh, we'll pay you $500. And you're like, no, sis, they paid me $1,500 and you can get $1,500 too. Or if they're like, well, I just did it for free. They're like, no, sis, because if you do it for free, they're going to expect me to do it for free. We need to both elevate this up and like make sure we're both going after that money because A, they have it and B, we're worth it and we're doing great work. So I just want to be clear. The transparency helps everybody. Yeah. And also so I'll be really transparent here that it took a long time for me to make what I consider a decent income. And a lot of it was mindset. And I'm doing all the work. So I'm reading the books. I'm in a money mindset group right now. I'm taking a course on it because I knew it was me that was actually holding me back.
The blocks.
Yeah.
Same.
It's so important to do that inner work, figure out what your upper limits are. Like I, for a while, was cruising and then I realized I had plateaued and I was like, what is that? And it's because my mental money container was only so big. I couldn't have those experiences. So that's something that we're friends now because I feel like we have these, you have to make friends with people who can help you expand that money container.
100%.
Anyway, so for a long time, what you make in revenue, what you pay yourself, by the way, y'all, is different.
Yes. And I've had that conversation with a few creators because it's like what the company makes versus what I make. Like my company, people don't see that. They see the big numbers. They don't realize the expenses.
Even if you're a solopreneur and because everyone's like, oh, I have to pay your team. I don't have a team. I don't care. You still have expenses. You have taxes to pay.
Yeah, you have a bad month coming up. You pay yourself a salary and that's it.
Correct.
100%. So I don't need to know how much you make. It's just more like, I don't want you to feel like, oh.
I don't want it. I'm happy to tell people because I'm really proud of the work that I did. But for a couple of years there, I was probably making about revenue-wise, $60,000 a year and only paying myself $27,000. And part of that was because I wasn't as profitable with my offerings. So that's something to consider. And I was living on $27,000 a year without a wealthy partner, by the way, in New York City. And sometimes I'm like, how was I doing this? I was just hustling, making it work. But I realized one day something changed and I was like, what am I doing? And I had some business debt. So a lot of my money was going towards that too because I made a lot of investments. And I paid off $40,000 in business debt in 1 year.
Wow.
Then I tripled my own income. So I now pay myself $67,000. And I more than doubled my revenue.
Oh my God.
So this is the thing. I'm saying this to you after so much work in doing this.
Yeah.
And also it is a decision you have to make about how you want to relate to your money. I also looked at my husband, by the way, it's hard when you have a partner. And I was like, I did it. You can do it. Let's go. Let's elevate. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So I see that now because I want you to know where it came from. Okay. So now like I said, my revenue now is probably between 1 and 150 because every year is a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way I found to like make it work, because again, expenses are so high for some of the work that we do for content creation, of course, is I pick a destination. And I did this in the beginning just because I like to do it, but I pick a destination and I do multi-brand shoots.
Okay, let's talk about it.
I'll create something like a destination like Paris, London, Guatemala, wherever, where I happen to want to go anyway.
Brilliant.
And then actually Puerto Rico, like here, we're in Puerto Rico together here. I came for this conference. I came to meet you, but I also hired a photographer who you know, and I knew she was here. I said, hey, listen, I'd love to hire you for a day, and I'm going to pitch a bunch of brands. We're going to do a brand shoot. And she was like, great. So I went to my favorite brands or new brands, whoever, and said, listen, I'd love to work with you. Here are these packages. Here's the destination. Here's the date for sign up. That was the biggie, because if they have that real sense of urgency, it's not like, well, we can work with her whenever. It's like, nope, I'm going to Puerto Rico on this date. I need product by this date. I need your deposit by this date. This is when it's happening. And I sell to them this way. This is true. It's not just a sale. That they're basically splitting the cost.
They are though.
Yes. Of like the hair and makeup, the location scouting, the photographer, the travel, the styling with all of these other brands. Mm-hmm. I'm paying that photographer once, and I shoot with like anywhere from 4 to 12 brands in 1 to 2 days.
Exactly.
So my favorite example of this is my very first time I ever did this. I went to Mexico and we shot for 2 days, I think. And I can't remember the numbers that I made that time. I'm sure it was actually quite a lot. I want to say it was like $15,000 with all the different brand deals that I had.
I think it was because I remember 12,800 or 15,
something like that.
You had 6 brands, but jump into it.
I remember thinking to myself, I'm never going to be able to do this again. What a fluke. That was crazy. I've pushed so hard. There's no way I'm ever going to be able to do this again. And I've proved myself wrong about a dozen times. So even on this trip, I'm offering packages that start at $1,000. It's not very much, but a grand is a grand.
Yeah.
And when you then have package 2 that's $2,000 and package 2 that's $2,800, then you have add-ons that can add up to $4,600 or $5,200. That adds up quickly. And I had a goal for this to have 6, for Puerto Rico specifically, to have 6 brands. And I only had 4, and I was kind of feeling down about it. But I realized all of them chose package 3 or higher. So I met my financial goal with less clients.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's great. And then my favorite one is when I did Paris once. And I did Paris many times. That's a lie. I shot in Paris many, many times. And, you know, I have photographers that I work with now. And I'm really, I have like teams of people that I really love to work with. But in this specific case, I had maybe 6 brands. And I think everything added up to $17,000 worth of brand credit.
Oh my God. So that's a $17,000 month, y'all. Like, yeah, look at that.
I had made way more that month. That was just for that one trip. I was shooting one day.
That's amazing.
And I was also going for a conference again for other things. It's a whole house. Yeah.
$17,000 one day shoot.
Yeah.
Can I get like a... Because the thing is, it also lets people know where you started, where you're going.
Yeah.
Again, like to this idea of putting a bunch of brands together, and packaging it up really nicely and getting brands excited and all the things, and it led to a $17,000 day.
Yeah. And it's funny, like sometimes people will be like, we have systems for this, not me and my team. So it's like, we know when you pick package 2 and it's in Puerto Rico, this is what you do. And then you have a whole Asana task, like, it's great. So people will actually be like, is there any way I could do something like outside of these destinations because it just doesn't really fit with like our brand or whatever? And I'm like, sure, but just so we're clear, like these packages are offered this way because it's a multi-brand shoot. And if we go outside of this or we want to do something more custom, it just takes more time for me and my team. And so the package might be a little more. And they're like, oh.
Yeah, and the pricing may also expire. This is the Puerto Rico like pricing.
Right.
This is Paris, maybe.
Yeah.
Right. Our expenses are different. We had to get a fancier Airbnb.
Right.
Or a place to shoot.
Yeah, exactly.
So I always tell creators too, when you're pricing yourself, make those prices expire.
Yeah.
Proposal has to have this is the month it runs for.
And if you run like a special something for a brand, you have to also say like, this is for the X brand in Puerto Rico price only, right?
Exactly.
The final thing I want to say to this too is that Oh wait, no, I lost my train of thought. I'm gonna get it.
It's okay.
I get it. It was about the brands. It was about the deals. It was about the.
I don't even remember what I was saying, so it's okay. But I'm sure it'll come back to us.
Okay.
In terms of when you decide to bring these brands together, have you ever gotten pushback? Because I think, again, creators are always making up excuses. Humans are always making up excuses. But we're always like, well, we can't do this because, well, with the competitors, you're shooting all the same type of brand.
Yeah.
Like, will they have a problem with that?
Yeah.
How do you kind of overcome maybe that? You clearly have multi-brand shoots.
Yes.
So it works, guys.
Yeah.
But I know someone here listening is going to be like, well, how do you kind of overcome that space of shooting?
So let's give an example. Like, if you're a food person and you go around to different restaurants and stuff, are you only going to ever do one Italian restaurant ever? Like, no, they're all different.
Of course.
What you might not do is an Italian restaurant and then the very next day another Italian restaurant that's like 2 blocks away. Like, you have to like space it out a little bit. Mm-hmm. My content is a really narrow set of categories. It's mostly intimate, so bras and underwear, sleepwear, swimwear, loungewear. Like, that's kind of it. That's what people know me for. I'll sprinkle in other things. Like, I had a great brand partnership this time that was a backpack, and the reason they worked with me is because we both are really into mental health and supporting people with mental health. So it's a good partnership. Anyway, that said,
Yeah, I love that.
sometimes in these contracts that brands have, they'll have like, you can't work with other brands that are, whatever for 30 days, immediately no for me. And I just go back to them, hey, listen, this is the nature of what I do. I am going to work with other brands in your space.
Yeah.
And this is where you make them feel safe. And when we decide on the product that we're sharing, it's really important for me and my team that we're going to like space things out. So there's not like a direct competitive product next year. So if we're working with a non-underwear bra, I'm going to like give you some space in our content calendar to make sure it's not back to back with that particular bra.
So you're almost like getting ahead of it also.
Yeah.
Just being able to
Like addressing it. Yeah. And let them know. And also like, it's a no then if you have a non-compete clause for like the year for me to not work with them, then guess what? You're paying my full year's salary
of the orders
because they can't make money with anybody else. So
it seems
I just nipped that in the bud.
or find ways to maybe upcharge or really put a healthy price.
Assure them. Just assure them.
Yeah.
In
terms of like brand partnerships, if we were to look at the revenue pie, I know you said 90% of your business comes from warm leads. What percentage of your business comes from brand partnerships?
So I did this breakdown recently, and I think it was at least 30 to 36%.
Okay. And that I think is on the low end.
I was just going to say that sounds low, but please remember that's sponsored content only, as in like you're only working with me, Hooray Kimmay, on my platform.
Okay. No, yes. I'm
and
so content for their platforms.
So I also do brand partnerships on television where it's a shared platform. So like you're paying me to represent you and I'm selling you a package to share you on the Rachel Ray Show, but also like on my platforms because the Rachel Ray Show is not my platform and I can't control everything over there, but I can control what's on mine. So like you're really buying a marketing package with me. And so we just have it as a separate category because it's also on someone else's turf.
Yeah, totally.
And so that's another like 30%. Then there's another maybe like 10% that I do editorial partnerships with, again, like another magazine. So it's someone else's platform plus my platform and we're doing it together. All of those are actually sponsored content and brand deals.
Exactly. Just so in your category.
So really that ends up being about like, what's the math on 70%?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other 30% is like I have a course, which we haven't really leaned a lot into, but that's coming up. And then I have another course that's launching for bra fitters, like people who want to be a bra fitter. And then I also have, I do like paid speaking gigs, panel hosting and workshops at the big expos in my industry, which again, big way to get brands to notice you that you're like an expert in this industry.
A conference speaker.
Yeah.
And the other sponsors coming up to you saying, hey, that's happened to us, being like, oh, you guys do this. We want to work with you.
Yeah.
Oh, we want to do. I'm like, should we go on this side?
Like, I hosted retreats. That's another way I made money one year is I took a whole bunch of people to Paris and we did like a Hooray Kimmay. It's called Fall in Love with Yourself in Paris.
I love that.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, it's interesting too because someone came up to me about our pitching course and being like, oh, brand deals, but like, I want to pitch a sponsorship. I want to pitch to be a speaker or I want to be a speaker. She didn't say the word pitch. I go, you still have to pin the content, get a deck together about you as a personal brand, right? Yeah. Pitch out, follow up, get on a call. Like all the things, right? So pitching is not like brand deals. It's reaching out to put yourself in opportunities that you want.
And to be fair, like a lot of the panels and workshops that I do, I also then pitch a sponsor. to come sponsor that thing. So like,
bring us along.
yeah,
Totally. Like, come join us with this, and it got us thinking too, like being vendors, oh, can we bring some of our big partners with us? To have, bringing partners that align with you that you talk about all the time anyway. Yeah. I think about partners that we worked with successfully. I'm not going to give up. They're part of they're almost embedded in us too.
100%.
So just in terms of last final thoughts to the creators listening in, the little Kimmays of the world that are floating around, or seeds have been planted in their little hearts and souls and brains. Starting words of wisdom, any sort of like, just, you got this, girl, something that you want to tell your younger little 17-year-old New York self. Give her a hug, tell her she's amazing. All the things that you had us do in our rooms, but I can't get into that. But
I will say, like, you want to be strategic about things, but you also need to figure out something that you like to do, because being genuine I'm gonna cry, gotten me so much further than if I just did something to do it. Like, I'm thinking about, like, there are so many things that I'm good at. So if you're a really capable woman, it's really easy to be pulled in a direction because people keep telling you yes, 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 and they keep pulling you there because you're good at it. I'm going to tell you right now, like, I had this conversation many times about, like, you should have been a doctor, or should have been a lawyer. Like, I could have been a doctor or a lawyer. Truly, I would have been good at it, and I would have fucking hated it, because it's not really what brings me joy. And who the hell thought that I would be fitting people for bras and encouraging them to love and accept their bodies? And then I don't even fit people for bras that much anymore, and yet creating courses and working with brands to inspire people. Like, what? Yeah. Like, so just go where your joy is, be strategic and smart about it, but still, like, really be true to yourself. It makes such a difference years later when people can see it. They can see it in the work that you do, and people will work with you because you genuinely like what you're doing. I
believe in yourself.
Literally.
Advocate for yourself. Yeah. You say no when you're 20 and you're going to have no money for yourself. Yeah. Like, it's that belief. Yeah. It's that, it builds on the confidence.
And this life, this work is hard. I'm not going to lie to anybody. Like, there are days I still have where I'm like, could I just be working for someone else? Totally. And have benefits and make more money and yada yada. And the answer is probably yes. Again, I'm a very capable person. And is that really where I feel like my life's purpose is? Is that really where I feel like I want to be right now? And if it's not where I want to be, or where I feel like God has placed me to be, then I'm not going to be there. Like, I'm going to do this work. And so the appreciation I get from people who are so faithful for the work that I do, who tell me, thank you so much for showing up so vulnerably. Like, I got a beautiful email the other day from a woman, all in Spanish, because I said like 2 things in Spanish on Instagram. And she was like, in Spanish, she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I had never reached out to you, been following you because I didn't know you spoke Spanish, but now that I know you do, I want to be the you of Spain. Like, she was so great. So like, you never know.
Whose lives are changing.
Yes. And if when it matters to you and you're doing it, it's so much easier to do. So, hooray. If you want to follow me, come to @HurrayKimmay. That's HurrayKimmay, because I would love to hear from you. I'm one of those people, when I go on podcasts or do these videos, I literally actually do want you to reach out to me where I'm looking, because I actually want you to come say hi to me, or let me know what you're doing, or if you have a question, or if you have questions about your bra and your heart space, or about being a creator, come say hi.
And I just want to check it out. I want Kimmay to host something. Like, I don't know what. I'm like, host a retreat, host a women's moon circle for.
I doubt those for years.
We do entrepreneur.
Yeah, let's do it.
Something.
I'll do it.
Kimmay hosted one for our Inner Circle program. I had to turn the camera off because I was bawling the entire time.
A lot of people were.
You were really just shook to the core, because a lot of us had never done that.
Yeah.
So you were just a magical force that brings that out in us. And I think that, I hope, follow her, love on her, get in her world. You would be, it's a blessing to be a part of Kimmay's world. So like, y'all need to just hop on that and get some of her energy. Because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm like, give it to me, give me some. It fuels me. It lifts me up. It inspires me.